Hi dear, welcome back to Timeless Wisdom. Have you ever trusted your daily meals without realizing that one of them could be silently blocking your blood flow? Let me tell you about a man named Walter. He's 75, lives in Ohio, and just had brain surgery yesterday. His story isn't rare. Walter is retired, plays cards on Thursdays, and has never smoked a day in his life, but something caught up to him. It wasn't just age. What landed him in that hospital bed wasn't an accident or some rare condition. It was the food he ate every day. Not fast food or junk piled high, but the kind of ordinary, everyday food that most of us have in our kitchens. The kind we trust without thinking twice. And that's exactly where the problem lies. When I saw him last week, Walter said something that stuck with me. I thought I was doing everything right. But what clogged my arteries wasn't one big mistake. It was 5 small habits I never questioned. In this video, I'll share Walter's story and the 5 foods he wishes he had stopped eating years ago. You'll see how they affected his arteries, his brain, and his overall health, and you might recognize how common these risks are for older adults who think they're eating normally. Stay with me till the end. These lessons could help you avoid surgery, protect your energy, and maintain your independence. Sometimes the most life-changing insights come from the smallest things we overlook. Let's dive in. Number 1. Processed meats. Walter told me he used to have ham or bacon with breakfast almost every morning. Sometimes it was deli turkey and a sandwich. Other times it was a few slices of sausage at dinner. It all seemed normal, nothing excessive, just the kind of food many older men eat to keep things simple and familiar. But over time, those small servings added up. The doctors found heavy plaque buildup in his arteries, and they weren't surprised when they heard what he'd been eating. Processed meats are packed with saturated fats and preservatives like sodium nitrate. These compounds can damage the inner lining of your blood vessels, which makes it easier for cholesterol and calcium to stick and harden. That's how plaque forms, and in Walter's case, dangerously. He didn't feel anything at first, just a bit of fatigue after walking up the stairs. Then came occasional lightheadedness, but the real damage had already been done beneath the surface. That's the thing with foods like these. They don't hit you all at once. They wear you down. The worst part? These meats are often marketed as convenient and protein-rich. That's what Walter believed, but the convenience came at a cost. The salt content alone is enough to raise blood pressure, which adds even more pressure to your arteries. Over the years, that pressure weakens the arterial walls, making them more prone to rupture or blockage. And let's talk about inflammation. That steady drip of chemicals from these meats, especially nitrates, can trigger chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is one of the key drivers of heart disease and stroke, especially in older adults. Walter said if he could go back, he wouldn't touch those meats so casually. If I had known, he said, I would have thought twice before making bacon a routine. He's not wrong. The small choices we make every morning can shape our health years down the line. If you're eating these kinds of meats regularly, you might want to pause and reconsider. You don't have to give them up entirely overnight, but cutting back can give your arteries some much-needed breathing room, and your brain will thank you for it later. Number 2. Baked goods and packaged pastries. Walter had a sweet tooth. Nothing wild, just a muffin in the morning or a store-bought cookie in the evening. Sometimes it was a slice of banana bread his neighbour made, or one of those boxed snack cakes you find near the checkout aisle. He wasn't overeating. He was just doing what felt comforting, especially after his wife passed a few years back. The little treats gave him a sense of routine. But what Walter didn't realize is that many of these baked goods are loaded with refined sugars and something even more harmful, trans fats. These fats aren't always listed clearly on the label. They hide behind phrases like partially hydrogenated oils, and while they make pastries flaky and help them last longer on the shelf, they also do serious harm to your heart and arteries. Trans fats are known to raise LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol, and lower HDL, the good one. That's a dangerous combination. Over time, this imbalance increases the risk of plaque buildup, narrowing your arteries and cutting off proper blood flow to the brain. That's exactly what happened to Walter. He didn't feel pain, he didn't notice any big warning sign, but inside, the inflammation was building and the arteries were stiffening. It wasn't just the fats either. The refined sugars in these pastries spike your blood sugar quickly, then drop it just as fast. That roller coaster effect damages the lining of blood vessels and contributes to insulin resistance. For older adults, whose bodies are already less efficient at processing sugar, this becomes an even bigger issue. Walter told me he used to think, it's just a small pastry, what harm can it do? But when you eat them every day or even a few times a week, the damage stacks up. It's not about guilt, it's about awareness. These foods don't just affect your waistline, they affect your circulation, your memory, your energy, your entire quality of life. And here's something most people overlook. Many of these items are labelled as low-fat or made with whole grains, but they still contain additives, stabilizers, and sugar substitutes that can confuse your metabolism and still trigger inflammation. Walter didn't know this. Most people don't, but now he does, and he's made changes one quiet step at a time. He's switched to fresh fruit, a small handful of walnuts, or plain Greek yogurt when he needs something sweet. He says it took a few weeks to adjust, but now he doesn't even crave the old stuff. More importantly, he feels clearer, lighter. His blood pressure has started to ease, and he no longer has those strange dizzy spells in the morning. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3. Flavoured coffee creamers. Walter never skipped his morning coffee. He called it his start button. But what he didn't think twice about was the splash of flavoured creamer he added to every cup. French vanilla on Monday, hazelnut on Tuesday. A little sweetness, a little creaminess. It seemed harmless enough, and over time it became a habit so automatic he barely noticed it. But here's the issue. Those flavoured creamers, especially the non-dairy kinds, are loaded with artificial ingredients, hydrogenated oils, corn syrup solids, chemical stabilizers. They're designed to taste rich and smooth while lasting forever on the shelf, but the body doesn't process them like real food. In fact, some of those oils act just like trans fats once they're inside you, even if the label says 0 grams. That's because small amounts can be rounded down, and those small amounts add up quickly when you're using the product daily. Walter told me he used to pour generously, no measuring, just until the coffee looked right. What he didn't realize was that with each cup, he was introducing compounds that quietly raises bad cholesterol, lowered the good kind, and fueled chronic inflammation in his blood vessels. It wasn't the coffee that was the problem, it was the creamer. And that inflammation? It's a major risk factor when it comes to heart disease and stroke. It weakens the arterial walls over time and makes the inner lining more prone to damage. Once that lining is compromised, plaque finds it easier to stick. That's how the narrowing begins. That's how the pressure builds. And in Walter's case, it ended in the kind of emergency no one ever expects. What's tricky is that many older adults use flavoured creamers thinking they're avoiding real sugar or heavy cream. But in doing so, they trade one problem for another. The artificial sweeteners and oils in these creamers may keep calories low, but they confuse your metabolism and can trigger a spike in insulin, especially if consumed regularly. For seniors, that spike is harder to regulate and more damaging to the body long term. Walter said he didn't believe it at first. "It's just coffee creamer," he said. "How bad could it be?" But once he switched to a splash of real milk and started reading ingredient labels more carefully, things changed. His blood pressure improved, the strange tightness he sometimes felt in his chest eased, and for the first time in years, he felt like his energy wasn't dropping off before noon. It's not about cutting everything out at once. It's about choosing ingredients your body actually recognizes. If you wouldn't put corn syrup solids or artificial thickeners on your toast, there's no reason to stir them into your coffee every morning. Walter's story is a reminder that sometimes the most damaging habits are the ones that feel the smallest. That tiny splash of flavor, when repeated every day for years, can shape your health far more than you realize. And it's not just about avoiding disease, it's about staying sharp, staying steady, being able to get out of a chair without losing your balance, walk without fatigue, think clearly in the afternoon. These little things become big things as we age, and what we add to our coffee each morning over time plays a part in that bigger picture. If flavored creamers are a part of your daily routine, take a closer look. You might find that your start button needs a small but powerful update, and your arteries might thank you for it. Number 4. Packaged soups and instant noodles. Walter used to say soup was his comfort food. When he didn't feel like cooking, or when the weather turned cold, he'd heat up a can of chicken noodle or pour boiling water over a cup of instant ramen. Quick, easy, familiar. That's what made it appealing. He figured it was better than greasy takeout or skipping dinner altogether. But what Walter didn't realize, and what many older folks don't see coming, is just how much sodium is packed into those convenient meals. Some of those cans and noodle cups carry more than half the recommended daily salt intake in a single serving. And that's assuming you stop at one serving. Most people don't. Over time, all that salt adds up. It raises your blood pressure steadily, tightening your blood vessels, and putting more strain on your heart with each passing year. And when your arteries are already aging, already less flexible than they used to be, that added pressure accelerates wear and tear. That's what happened to Walter. His arteries weren't just clogged, they were stiff, overworked, and fragile. He used to feel a dull pressure in his head by the afternoon. He thought it was just aging, but the scan showed something different. The high-sodium diet had pushed his blood pressure into dangerous territory. The walls of his arteries had thinned in some places and thickened in others, trying to compensate. That's what led to his event, and it could have been prevented. Sodium isn't the only issue with these foods. Many packaged soups and noodles contain additives, artificial flavors, and preservatives designed to mimic real ingredients while keeping costs low. These chemicals can confuse your nervous system and mess with your kidney function, especially in older adults who already have reduced kidney efficiency. That stress trickles back into your circulatory system, putting even more strain on your arteries. Walter said he never even thought to look at the sodium content. "I just looked at calories," he told me. "Didn't realize my heart didn't care about calories as much as it cared about salt." That realization hit him hard. He thought he was choosing better. He thought soup was safe. Now he's made a switch. When he wants something warm and easy, he uses low-sodium broth, adds frozen or fresh vegetables, and sprinkles in herbs for flavor. It takes a few minutes longer than opening a can, but the difference in how he feels is worth it. No more mid-afternoon pressure in his head, no more numb tingling in his arms, and most importantly, no more emergency hospital visits. If you have packages of instant noodles sitting in your cupboard, or if you reach for canned soup when you don't feel like cooking, take a moment to read the label. Look at the sodium, not just per serving, but per package. You might be shocked, and once you see it, it's hard to unsee. This isn't about giving up comfort food, it's about choosing versions of it that truly comfort your body, not just your taste buds. Walter didn't stop eating soup. He just stopped eating the kind that was slowly breaking him down from the inside out. Small changes like this don't feel dramatic, but their impact builds with time. Your arteries don't need more pressure. They need space. Space to move. Space to carry oxygen to your brain. Space to help you stay steady, sharp, and strong. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Number 5. Sugary breakfast cereals. Walter never missed breakfast. He believed in starting the day with something quick, easy, and sweet. Most mornings, that meant pouring a bowl of cereal and adding a splash of milk. Sometimes it was a box labelled whole grain. Other times it had pictures of fruit on the front, or words like heart healthy in big letters. He thought he was making a smart choice, but most of those cereals were loaded with added sugar, far more than he realised. Even the ones that didn't taste overly sweet often had 5, 10, sometimes even 15 grams of sugar per serving. And let's be honest, no one stops at one serving. He didn't. Most people don't. That morning, sugar rush might give you a burst of energy, but it comes at a cost. It causes your blood sugar to spike fast, then crash hard. That spike damages the inner lining of your blood vessels, especially in the brain where circulation is more delicate. Over time, these daily sugar hits can create chronic inflammation and make your arteries more vulnerable to narrowing and blockage. Walter had no idea cereal could be part of the problem. "It's breakfast," he said. "How bad can it be?" But it wasn't just the sugar. The refined grains in many cereals break down quickly, flooding the bloodstream with glucose and putting stress on the pancreas and insulin response. For older adults, that constant metabolic strain becomes harder to manage, and when the body can't keep up, inflammation sets in. Arteries stiffen, plaque builds, and small clots become more likely to form. The doctors explained that the damage wasn't just in his heart or his legs. It had reached the arteries in his brain, the ones that matter most when it comes to memory, balance, and focus. He had started to notice little things slipping away, forgetting names, losing his train of thought mid-sentence, standing up too quickly, and feeling laden. He thought it was just part of getting older, but in reality, it was a slow starvation of oxygen and nutrients to the brain, caused by arteries that were too clogged to do their job. He said to me, "No one tells you cereal could do this." But when he looked closer, he saw the truth. The ingredients weren't there to nourish him. They were there to sell a feeling of health, not deliver it. That's what made him change. Now Walter starts his day differently. Sometimes it's oatmeal with cinnamon and nuts. Other times it's scrambled eggs with spinach, or plain yogurt with berries. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be real. And the difference in his energy, his mood, and his ability to focus? Night and day. He no longer feels that mid-morning crash. No more fogginess, no more trembling hands when lunch is delayed. And the best part? He feels like himself again, like his brain woke up with him instead of trailing behind hours later. If breakfast is part of your daily rhythm, take a close look at what's actually in your bowl. What seems small and innocent might be doing more harm than you know. Walter didn't need a diet overhaul. He just needed to stop feeding inflammation first thing in the morning. That quiet change gave his arteries some relief, and it gave his brain a second chance. Final thoughts. Walter's story isn't unique, but it is a wake-up call. A man who never smoked, rarely drank, and thought he was doing things right ended up needing brain surgery because of the foods he trusted most. Not because he overate, not because he lived recklessly, but because no one ever told him how certain everyday foods quietly wear the body down over time. What stood out to you the most in this video? Was it the coffee creamer you add each morning without thinking? The soup that feels like comfort but hides dangerous amounts of salt? Or maybe the cereal you've always believed was a healthy start? These aren't just food choices. They're long-term habits that shape how we age, how we think, and how we live. If you saw yourself in any part of Walter's routine, don't feel ashamed, feel informed, and take that knowledge as a reason to pause, reflect, and make one small change today. Because when it comes to your arteries, your brain, and your future, even a quiet shift can mean everything. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't try to fix everything at once. Walter didn't. He started with breakfast, then he changed how he shopped for soup. Over time, those changes added up. His energy came back, his blood pressure came down, and the fog in his mind started to lift. Now he's focused not on being perfect, but on being aware, and that awareness has given him something more powerful than any quick fix. Control over how he ages, and peace of mind knowing he's no longer working against his own body without knowing it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let us know one thing you learned today and how you plan to apply it in your life. Your feedback means a lot to us, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts. Reading your comments truly motivates and encourages us. If you enjoyed this video and found it valuable, please give it a like, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom, and share it with others. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to see you in the next video.